Well, the man overseeing our future relationship with the EU, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove, joins us in the studio. Good to see you this morning, Mr.
Good morning, Neil. Morning.
We should say this is a moment of significance, isn't it? An agreement in principle on that rather thorny issue of the Irish border.
Yes, absolutely. Throughout this year, there have been intense talks between ourselves and the European Commission in order to make sure that we can resolve the issues on what's called the Northern Ireland Protocol. And of course, people wanted to make sure, first of all, that there was no border infrastructure on Northern Ireland border, but also that Northern Ireland can be a secure part of the United Kingdom. We've agreed that. As a result, some of the measures that we were putting forward, which some in Europe had criticised, we can now no longer need to introduce those, and that means that there is a smoother glide path towards a possible deal.
It could be viewed as a concession being made on the British part, given the threat that we had made to break international law. So what have we gained from making this concession?
Well, unless we'd secured agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol, then we faced a situation where goods going to Northern Ireland would have faced tariffs. And the price of everything from a pint of milk to a Nissan Qashqai would have been greater for citizens in Northern Ireland. It's also the case that we might have faced restrictions on some of the food that would have been found on supermarket shelves. It would also have been the case that there might have been barriers that people would have tried to erect between Northern Ireland businesses and Great Britain. None of those threats now exist, and as a result of the determined way in which the Prime Minister has negotiated, we're in a stronger position to be able to say to the people of Northern Ireland that they are secure in the United Kingdom, but also, of course, all of the gains of the peace process over the last 22 years are secured as well.
It does, though, very much look like a border down the Irish Sea. There will be checks, minimal checks perhaps, but there will be checks between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And wasn't it Boris Johnson who said that, you know, over my dead body, there would be a border in the Irish Sea?
I don't think there's a border in the Irish Sea.
Well, where are the checks taking place then?
It's always been the case that the whole island of Ireland has been regarded as a single zone when it comes to animal health. And it's always been the case that there's been checks on live animals when they've gone from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. There are a minimal additional number of checks on products of animal origin, and we put this forward during the talks last year as a way of breaking the deadlock and making sure that we could avoid any sort of border infrastructure on the island of Ireland as well. But the impact for businesses and for citizens in Northern Ireland will be minimal. Citizens are going to be able to enjoy all the products that they currently enjoy, and the security of knowing that their position within the United Kingdom is absolutely stable. The checks may well be minimal, and we will discover this as we move forward, but they remain checks, and they remain border checks. And there is a difference, it has to be said now, between Great Britain and Northern Ireland in terms of its long-lasting relationship with the European Union. I mean, let's not forget, we're also going to have EU officials stationed in Northern Ireland now, well, by my reading, in perpetuity. Well, there are two things to say. The first thing is that Northern Ireland's position is different from the rest of the United Kingdom in one particular way, which is that it has a land border with the European Union. And as a result of that, there are certain specific additional measures that we need to put in place. And also, it has been the case that Northern Ireland's position, ever since the signing of the Belfast Agreement, has been unique in the United Kingdom. But it's firmly part of the UK, and the principle of consent underlies this. As for EU officials, it's always the case when you have trade arrangements that people from another country with whom you've got a trading relationship can come, can inspect, and can make sure that your facilities meet their standards, and vice versa.
Why then is it that Unionists in Northern Ireland, who are arguably best placed to decide whether or not there is a border down the Irish Sea, are less than sanguine about a long-term EU presence in Northern Ireland, and indeed about the potential of there being different regulatory regimes there and here?
Well, I think when we started this whole process, we wanted to make sure that we respected the position of both traditions in Northern Ireland. Now, I'm a unionist myself. I want to make sure that Northern Ireland stays part of the United Kingdom, and I'll argue for the benefits of that. But it's also the case that over time we've acknowledged that there are some specific provisions that exist in Northern Ireland that take account of the fact that it has a border with the Republic and with the European Union.
But if we were to draw a Venn diagram of the UK and the European Union, Northern Ireland would in essence be the bit where the two intersect right now. You said to my colleague Sam Coates yesterday, look, this provides Northern Ireland with the best of both worlds. He asked the same question that I'm going to ask right now. Why not the best of both worlds for Scotland, England, Wales? If it's good enough for Northern Ireland, why not the rest of us?
Well, as you point out, there are some people in Northern Ireland who are critical of some aspects of what we've achieved and feel that there are downsides to this. It is a balanced package overall. It provides businesses in Northern Ireland with access to the single market because, again, there's no border infrastructure on the island of Ireland. As you pointed out, there are some additional administrative checks on some goods going from Britain to Northern Ireland, not the other way around. And that balanced package means that businesses in Northern Ireland have access both to the rest of the UK and to the EU. But ultimately, Northern Ireland's position is unique. Its history, its geography, its politics mean that it's in a different position to the rest of the United Kingdom, even as it remains solidly part of one country.
What does all this mean for the prospect of a trade deal? Certainly the mood music from both sides doesn't exactly lend much confidence to the fact that we're going to get any progress in the immediate future. But given that, what assistance is the government preparing for businesses that will have a negative impact because of a no-deal Brexit?
Well, firstly, I hope that we will secure a free trade agreement. But secondly, in the event that we don't have a negotiated agreement, there are a number of steps that the Chancellor and others can take in order to make sure that British business is as competitive as possible. And over the course of this year, we've been investing significant amounts in order to help business to prepare.
Can we talk about vaccines? Because, of course, yesterday was an incredibly significant day. And indeed, we heard the news yesterday as well of the Oxford vaccine ready to come on stream now. I mean, first, your thoughts on the fact that we are now starting to see that roll out and when we might actually see other vaccines being brought on stream?
Well, yesterday was a great day. As we know, the world was watching as the very first vaccinations that occurred here in the UK, thanks to the NHS. We know that more vaccine is arriving from the current level of stocks, which are coming from Belgium. But we also know that the Oxford-AstraZeneca virus passed some more tests yesterday. And I hope, but again, I have to defer to the official medical regulator, that we'll be able to be injecting people with that vaccine soon.
What does this mean for the easing of restrictions? Matt Hancock appeared to suggest yesterday that when the most vulnerable in society have received the vaccine, that is the point at which things would start getting back to normal. I mean, can you put a timescale on that?
No, I don't think I can at this stage. I think the most important thing is to make sure, exactly as Matt outlined, that we vaccinate the most vulnerable. Then we want to make sure that vaccination spreads across the whole population. I think that we can begin progressively to ease measures in the new year. But certainly we need, during January and February, which are tough months for the NHS, not to relax our vigilance.
What exactly are we expecting to happen to the NHS come January? Everyone knows you ease the restrictions, COVID transmission increases. That will happen over Christmas. It's a certainty. Do we have any estimates of the additional burden that's going to be placed on the NHS?
Well, the NHS always keeps the level of pressure that it's under review, and it's, you're absolutely right. People are going to be allowed to mix over Christmas. It's a natural human desire to be with those that we love at that time of the year. And that's one of the reasons why we have the tier system in place. Some people have understandably found the current tier system very difficult, and it is. But it's there to try to ensure that we keep the pressure on the NHS down through those difficult months.
So where then would we see the restrictions being eased in the new year? Which particular parts can we say, look, that is going to be the first thing to go?
Well, again, this is something that we have to keep under review. We know that the virus is a resilient and difficult enemy. We know that concerted action in areas such as Liverpool have brought the incidence down and we've been able to ease restrictions, but we just have to keep this constantly under review. No one more than me would like to see more and more of the country move into lower tiers. But of course, as you quite rightly point out, we need to make sure the NHS is protected through the next 2 difficult months.
I mean, is London about to enter into Tier 3 by your reckoning? Certainly, there are people in other parts of the country with higher infection rates than there are, lower infection rates that there are in part of London, pointing the finger at London and suggesting that it's been singled out for special treatment.
No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think you're right that there are variations across London, borough by borough. But we get advice from the Joint Biosecurity Centre and from those who are monitoring not just the incidence of the virus, but also the pressure on the NHS. And we do keep these things under review. But of course, what we want to do is to see areas, if we possibly can, either stay in their current tier or move down a tier. But it requires us all, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, to be vigilant.
It seems from what you're saying there that London might not be about to enter into Tier 3 then.
Well, it's not my personal judgment.
Sure.
It's not the case that any individual minister or indeed any individual advisor decides. We look at the evidence and we form a collective judgment. And of course, we share that evidence so people can see the basis on which the decision was made.
A little later in the programme, I'm going to be speaking to Fred Banning, and he has been diagnosed with Category 4 bowel cancer, terminal, a horrible thing. He is asking for people in similar situations to him to be prioritised for vaccinations, so that in the remaining weeks, months of his life, he can spend time with the family. What do you make of that?
Well, it's an incredibly, moving situation when you have people who are living with terminal diseases, and we're reviewing how we can make sure that the most vulnerable and those in clinically difficult positions can be vaccinated, and we were discussing exactly how we can do this in government only yesterday. Obviously, it depends on the number of vaccines that we can secure, but absolutely, when you have a moving example like that, and there are all too many, we want to make sure that people are vaccinated so they can be with those they love at what is inevitably an incredibly difficult and stressful time for the family.
Well, I know that Fred will be keeping his fingers crossed that there may be some movement in that regard sometime soon. Michael Gove, always nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thank you.